technology does not solve the problems in your business. What you need to do is you need to align all the human energy in your business. You've got to sort out, get the right structure, have the right people in the right seats, have the right processes in place. You've got to align all that human energy. And then when you add technology to that, AI, whatever it is, that's the multiplier.
There's no silver bullet in sales, but on Sales Against the Odds, we're here to give you the best shot at building a sales infrastructure that helps you scale. I'm your host, Lee Brumbaugh. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Lee Brumbaugh. You are joining another episode of Sales Against the Odds. Very excited to have Jason Green with us today. Jason is a certified EOS implementer in the UK, so we get the cool accent today, and we get to learn about some of the differences on US versus UK from a business perspective. But Jason has a history of not only EOS, but in the technology space, building successful companies. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, hi Lee, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for putting up with my English accent today.
We all know you sound more sophisticated than us Americans. So I know you've worked with our SX team over in the UK. They speak very highly about what you do with the clients. But how did you get into the EOS space? Tell us a little bit about your journey of how you got into EOS.
Yeah, well, my journey is, I think, probably pretty similar to a lot of EOS implementers. Struggling, founder, visionary, too big an ego to let go, too involved in every part of my business, and I was strangling it. We just hit a ceiling. We couldn't break through the ceiling, and it really was all my fault because I wasn't giving people clear direction. I wasn't setting a vision. I was frustrated with my people, and a good friend of mine gave me a copy of Traction by Gino Wickman. I picked it up a couple years later, and I was just blown away. I was just like, you complete imbecile, why haven't you been doing any of this stuff? And so implemented it in my business, and over a period of about 3 years, turned the business around, built intrinsic value in it because the business didn't need me anymore. And I sold that about 7 years ago. And since then, I have been practicing being an EOS implementer on my way to mastery. I don't think I'm ever going to get there, EOS mastery. It's just so simple and beautiful. Really.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jason, you mentioned, you said yourself, right? Strangling the business, so to speak. When you're taking on new EOS clients, how do you get that owner and that visionary to take a step back and realize that they are doing exactly what you did, kind of strangling that business? How do you get that aha moment to click? Do you have to give some tough love sometimes to do? What does that look like?
I think some business owners come to that realization by themselves. It's just that constant doing the same thing over and over again, and you just, it's not working. So you've got to, at some point the light bulb goes off and you realize that maybe the problem isn't my people and my business. Maybe the problem is me. So I think some business owners go through that realization. Other business owners, it's a little bit of a journey. I mean, I have clients that from the moment I meet them to the time we get into the session room and do a session, it can be 2 years. Really, it's just meeting them, coaching them, asking them questions about their business, because you can never tell someone. You can't tell, you can tell someone that it's them. But unless they realize it for themselves, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. So it's about those probing questions, asking, is that the real issue? What is the root cause of you being frustrated with your people, and helping them realize that they're the issue, not their team.
Yeah, that's great perspective. You mentioned the root issue and kind of getting into it. Where do you see companies that struggle the most with realizing, peeling back the onion is hard, right? And getting to the... Yeah. So when you think about good issue solving, what does that look like?
I think, I don't know if you went to the EOS conference and saw Gino talk about being open and honest. He talks about, what does being open and honest with that leadership team? And it's so important to be open and honest when you're tackling issues and getting to the root cause. So first of all, everybody on the leadership team needs to be open to feedback. because feedback is a gift. You got to try and change everyone's mindset in the room that feedback is a gift. It's not, you're not attacking the person. You're basically saying, this is where we need to do better. So it starts with being open and honest. So you've got to be open as an individual, and it's not easy. When people are open, you can just say it. You can just say what the issue is. And I think that the teams that go deep and really figure out the root cause are the ones that aren't afraid to just get it out there and really hone in, because often issues are people issues.
Yeah.
Someone in that room is just not doing whatever they're meant to be doing to the standard that you need. Maybe they just need help. Maybe the person might share the values, but they maybe just need some help. So you've got to start with vulnerability-based trust, being open and honest with each other. And when that's there, teams will go deeper and really figure out the root cause.
I'm just going to ask a question on this from a sales perspective, how often it's an issue. But so many times sales is a piece of it. And, when you're looking at that issue, I love the approach of it. It is, sometimes it's individual, but sometimes it's team elements that can help pick that up, right? If you don't have the right ICP determined, if you don't have a value proposition that resonates, like as a team, you can fix some of those types of things. So, obviously our podcast focuses on sales in the SMB space. Just real world, how often is sales a driver of what's being talked about, a core issue in the teams you work with? What do you see good teams, how do they solve for, you're getting a rock and it's consistently scorecard is off because of sales, or rocks are off because of sales? Like, how do you see good teams approach that? Is it sometimes a person issue? Is it a process issue? What are you seeing recently when sales are, a crux issue for the team?
Yeah, and it often isn't an issue for small businesses. I think it starts with having good data and process, because without good data and process, it's difficult to pinpoint the root cause. Where is it? Is it getting leads in? Is it the conversion? Is it, the number of proposals you're getting out? So are the leads quality leads rather than just a bunch of leads? My best teams have really managed to systemize their marketing and their sales and have these on scorecards, so that if they're getting the right amount of quality leads, that leads to meetings, it leads to proposals and quotes. And it's a bit like EOS. There's no magic pills or silver bullets with EOS. Same thing with sales. Sales is about consistently being persistent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keep going with the numbers. So yeah, systemize, measure.
Well, I think, it's a good, again, there's so many different, the nice part about sales, as you mentioned, in our day and age with the stages, the way it's weighted, if you should have, companies that don't have that level of sophistication are really missing out, because you're right. You can blame the person or the team member, but it could be a top of the funnel issue. It could be bottom of the funnel issue. And with all the tools and resources we have today, there's so many different ways to support. If it's a bottom of the issue, you can coach you. If it's a top of the funnel, it's how it's, like you said, sales and marketing kind of syncing together. So when you say processes, and you mentioned scorecards, I see teams struggle with, they may have a good leadership sales scorecard, but doesn't roll down to necessarily a good sales scorecard or an operational sales scorecard. How do you see good teams link up their sales scorecards, all their scorecards, so there's good synergy amongst what they're building from a data standpoint?
So I think, you're exactly right. Often leadership teams do EOS very well with scorecards and measurables. And then within the sales team, you have to, first of all, you've got to have a great leader and manager there. Whoever that head of sales is on the leadership team, they need to be great at LMA, leadership, management, and accountability. Because I always think, you've always got to look at yourself. If your team's not performing, you've got to look at yourself first. You've got to ask yourself, am I giving them all the tools they need, the resources, the technology? Am I creating clear expectations? Am I communicating well with them? And this is all leadership and management. Have I created the right vision for them and shared that with them? You've got to give them that first, because if you don't give them that, then you're doing them a disservice. And then once you have that in place, then you've got to have clear accountability on a weekly, especially with sales is so easy to measure, isn't it? You look at other areas of the business like operations, when you're dealing with, how much time are we devoting to each client?
Right. Customer service in general, yeah.
It's, you can measure it, but it's so much harder, and it puts an additional load on everyone as well. But with the salesperson, you can go, how many meetings did they do this week? How many phone calls did they make? What was the value of their proposals? So you've got to have a great scorecard. And my biggest bugbear is that when I get to see a sales team scorecard, they have team accountability. So they'll have the number of meetings for the team.
And as one person, the four that's driving. Yeah.
And it's usually the manager, the leader of the sales team, they're the one that owns the number. Where, what they need is they need Bob and Richard and Lisa and them all to have their own measurables for the week. Because, you want to use this to create a little bit of competition, but also you can learn from each other. If Bob's getting 10 meetings a week and Lisa's only getting 2, well, what is Bob doing that Lisa's not doing?
And that should be an issue on the sales list. People think issues are negative, but they can be positive. So let's learn from, hey, Bob, you had 10 meetings. Lisa, you only had 2. Let's learn from each other. Put it on the issues list. Like, it's a great area. Yeah,
exactly. So, measurables aren't there just to beat people up. They're there to help people get better as well. I mean, there is a limit. If they never learn, that number never goes up. Okay, maybe you got the wrong person in the wrong seat.
Most companies don't have the bandwidth to build a high-functioning sales department to allow them to meet their revenue targets. With Sales Xceleration, they don't have to. Our experienced fractional sales leaders consult and implement your sales strategy, infrastructure, management, and team development. Discover how we deploy these proven sales solutions to address your sales challenges by going to our website and filling out the contact form. We'd love to hear from you.
I've worked with so many companies on EOS, and so many companies that struggle with finding good issues, right? How do we find good issues? But if what you described, right, if Bob has 10, let's say Lisa has 6, you're meeting your meeting goals, but you're not getting the proposal goals. Well, there's a gap there. Take it, drive it to the issues list. Don't talk about the scorecard. So sales is great because so many teams struggle with, well, it's a sales L10 and we don't really have issues. Like, no, you've got great issues. You're a rock. Your scorecard elements should drive daily issues on a daily basis. We didn't have enough proposals in. What's changing? We're not getting them out fast enough. Do we need other team members? Is our format of how we present not clear enough?
Do we need to redo our proven process? Does our sales process need fixing? The root cause will be in there somewhere.
But as so many teams I get into, they're like, well, we have this great leadership L10, but I just don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, no, this is a perfect place to drive the good. And there can be some variation. I'll tell you that I've done a lot of L10s, and I would develop a quick little check on their pipeline. We'd focus on their top 5 accounts that want a movement for the week. So, but at the end of the day, if you've got a good scorecard, you've got good rocks, and you're tackling issues, you've got something that's gold in the sales meeting. So,
but I still think that comes from the leader. The leader has got to really create a safe environment for that sales team. They've got to go first at being open and honest. They've got to want feedback. What can I do better for you? On a daily, weekly basis.
So Jason, I'm going to use a couple points you've made today. So you said at the beginning, we've got this business owner that wants to strangle the business. You just said the sales leader's trying to create a safe space. We're going to have a lot of SMB owners that are listening today that are saying, I got to join every sales meeting. And we just said, we're trying to create a space. Have you ever had a situation where you've told the owner, let the salesperson take, have you had those tough conversations where you said, hey, you're meddling in an area that's how does that give us some perspective on that?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I was one of those leaders. You know what? It's not leading. It really is not leading. I think that's the first thing. I wasn't leading. I was meddling. That's
a good way to put it.
Chief meddling officer, I think. I think I was. And so I think, first of all, without something like EOS, it's difficult for leaders or chief meddling officers to let go. And the reason is that if you just let go without putting any systems, you have this anxiety and fear that nothing's getting done. EOS gives you a feedback mechanism. By all means, go and look at the sales team scorecard, but don't go to their meeting. Don't go to their meeting, because the moment you go to that meeting, you change the dynamics.
It's absolutely true. And it's funny because I think so much is, and we get it, right? You're the business owner, you want to have a pulse on everything. And it's like, well, I got to go to the meeting. I got to go to that person. The other thing is we just talk about processes and tools, right? I always tell business owners that they'll go to the sales rep, tell me what you want in pipeline. You have a CRM. You have access to, we're trying to put in place where you can see data points. And so
Yep.
nothing drives me more nuts than when the business owner goes and is asking all these questions, like, you could have looked that up. You're telling your team members to input the data so we can have visibility to the pipeline and what's going on and a weighted percentage, and then we ignore it. And then the business owner, so really, spot checking yourself if you're doing what you're preaching and practicing to, I think is critically important.
Exactly. And also the leadership team scorecard has enough information on there so you know whether things are working at the other levels of your organization. You could just have a number of proposals that have gone out every week on your leadership team scorecard. You don't know who did it and what the process was behind that, but 20 went out. And we know that if 20 go out every week, that's going to lead to 5 pieces of business at an average value of whatever. So the tools give you confidence as an owner to let go.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of it, you said a good sales leader too. Hopefully they know, well, we're off on proposals, right? Goals 20, we're at 10. They're proactively putting it on the issues list. They're embracing, like, we've got an issue here. I need help supporting fixing it. Like, that's the leaders you can work with because they get it, want to have capacity. It's the ones that are trying to smoke screen it and, you want to embrace the issue, tackle it as a team. So bubble stuff up and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, issues are just friction in the business. If you can remove that friction, that it gives your business energy.
Yeah. When you think about the tools that you have, there's a lot of EOS tools. Like, what do you, I'll just put you on the spot a little bit, but every EOS implementer, there's a sales department checklist, there's different tools and resources. What's your favorite right now? What are you finding and why is that a favorite? Because and I know UK business may be a little bit different than US, but what tool are your teams really embracing right now that you find is being utilized more?
That's a difficult question because every team is different. Every team is different. They're at a different stage of their journey. The tool that is the root of most issues in the business is the accountability chart. That is always one of my favorite tools. And so, I often, when we got an issue to solve and it feels like we can't find the root cause, I do get my teams to open up their leadership team manuals to the EOS tools section where it lists all the tool. I do say to them, which tool do you think will solve this issue? And many times it's a people issue and it's ambiguity around accountability. Who's accountable for what? The company has grown, hit a ceiling, and their structures become too complex. They have an accountability chart, but it's a phantom accountability chart.
What do you mean by fam? That they're just not living and breathing it? It's something
Exactly. They have it, but they're operating like this.
Yeah.
Which is completely different. And so the issues that are bubbling up are basically because there's ambiguity and confusion in there. So yeah, you're going to pin me down to one.
No, that's good. I mean, that's the core issue. And so what do you see the teams that are most successful with building a really good accountability chart? Is it good role clarification? Is it, right? People say, like, what's good look like from a great accountability chart? Company does it well.
The key driver is the integrator. They've got a great integrator that has focused on getting the right people in the right seats at the leadership team and is leading and managing that team and using the tools to help lead and manage those teams. So, if they've got an issue within a function, they'll sit down with the owner of the function and go, what do we need to do? How do we need to structure this to break through the ceiling? So a great integrator really levels up your business.
What do you see from visionary to integrator? When is that chemistry working the best? So that you've got a great integrator that's owning the business. How does that then bubble up to good integrator visionary relationship?
Yeah, I mean that takes time. It takes time because it's like a marriage.
Yeah,
that visionary and integrator. Whenever I'm working with a visionary and they realize they need to hire an integrator to take their business to the next level, I always advise them to go slowly with that hire because it's so important to get it right. But when you get it right, it really frees the visionary to do what they're best at. And typically that is not leading that management team. So when you get the right integrator in, it gives that team direction, clear communication. They're not swapping goals and rocks all the time. when you get a visionary and integrator on the same page, it just supercharges the business. It's so powerful, but it's, they have to work at it. They have to work at it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I have a great relationship with our integrator, but it is, you've got to be on the same page, honest and open. And there's, like you said, there is work to goes into it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So last question for you. The world is changing from a pace of how we pivot and AI perspective and all these different things. What are the, you're an SMB owner listening today in the UK or the US. What's the one last thing that you're seeing that companies are doing really well that's making a difference and driving results in their business? Anything that stands out to you of what you're seeing in today's marketplace?
I think I can talk about this both ways. What's not working? So what I'm seeing, this is all around AI. So, everybody's talking about AI. AI is the new piece of technology, isn't it? Automation, AI. And throughout my life being, an entrepreneur and now working with about 50 companies, I've, helped about 50 companies and I've done about 400 odd EOS sessions. Leaders of businesses, so many times they think that technology is going to help them solve their issues. Put in a CRM system, put in an ERP system, or, use AI. And it's never worked. It never works. Technology does not solve the problems in your business. What you need to do is you need to align all the human energy in your business. You've got to sort out, get the right structure, have the right people in the right seats, have the right processes in place. You've got to align all that human energy. And then when you add technology to that, AI, whatever it is, that's the multiplier for your business. If you've got chaos in your business, if it's, if you've got all this human energy canceling each other out, people don't have clear rocks, they don't have measurables, they don't have process, and you add AI or technology to that, it just 10x's the chaos. So what I'm seeing is great companies, they're running a great business, they got all this human energy aligned, and they're adding AI to it. That is significantly multiplying their business. But you've got to sort that human energy out.
Yeah, that's well put. And so many, we talked about earlier at the start, the onset, issues can be negative or positive, but they're opportunities for growth. And when you understand it and you're looking at it, okay, we now understand the business problem. Let's use AI to function around that. So many times I'm seeing companies of we need to fix sales. We'll buy all these different resources that are AI driven, but you don't understand what is it? Again, is it a coaching problem? Is it the top of the funnel? And how does that solution, be built around the technology, stack itself? So
yes.
I think that's well put. Yeah. Well, Jason, this has been great. I think we've gotten into the weeds of a lot of different things. I love your perspective on people and energizing and the accountability portion. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I really loved it. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for joining another episode of Sales Against the Odds. Tune in a couple more weeks. We will have another thought leader, business leader that will challenge how we grow our business in the SMB space. Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to Sales Against the Odds. Be sure to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. And if you want more resources on scaling sales, check out our website at salesxceleration.com.